Meeting called to order.
Ms. Douglas?
Here.
Mr. Hamilton? Excused. Ms. Hedlund is excused. Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Ms. Makovsky?
Here.
Mr. Morrison?
Here.
Mr. Patterson?
Here.
Ms. Salmon?
Here.
Ms. Waller?
Here.
Okay. I don't believe we have any changes to the agenda. So next we move to approval of minutes of the previous meeting. Did anybody have any corrections or changes to that? Yes.
I had a good reason for not being here. Did I neglect to tell you that ahead of time so that I would be excused? I was seeking medical attention in New York City at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and all the news was really, really good.
Congratulations.
Good. Good. Okay.
Excused.
You are excused. Okay. Can I have someone to move and second approval of the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I don't believe we have any public input, so we'll move on to some of the grant presentations. First one is going to be Tim Peters.
Hi.
Hi.
So my name is Tim Peters. My project was about David Foster Wallace. David Foster Wallace was a writer who grew up in Urbana and went to Urbana High School. His father taught philosophy at U of I, and his mother taught English at Parkland College. He was most famously a novelist. He wrote the novel Infinite Jest that came out in 1996. He also was an essay writer and a journalist and a short story writer. He died in 2008 at the age of 46. I wrote an article about him last year for the Los Angeles Review of Books, an essay about his story that he wrote. And my grant was to turn that article into a booklet, into a chapbook that you could hold in your hands, and that would be nice and be something a little more memorable than what happens when you read an article on the internet. So you can see here some pictures of the booklet. I made multiple covers. I tried to make it sort of like a collector's item. I distributed it throughout Urbana. This is at the Art Coop. This is at the IMC building. And these were all free. These were just to be taken as you pleased. This was also at the IMC building. This was at Era Records. This was at Priceless Books on Main Street. This was at Espresso Royale and Cafe Zojo. I was able to make 200 copies of this booklet with the arts grant. This was on the copyright page, my use of the logo of the city of Urbana and the Urbana Public Arts Program. The booklet got a little bit of recognition last week from the design blog of the paper company whose paper I used for the project, so that was nice to see. I was going to put him at the library, but this David Foster Wallace's life is not exactly for children or for the young, so I didn't want to offend anyone by making it easy for a child to pick this up and read it. It's kind of morbid and serious, but I put it in bookstores, coffee shops, other places, and just let people take a copy or multiple copies as they please. I wanted it to be sort of a surprise or sort of unusual, and to just kind of get people reading and thinking about David Foster Wallace and remembering him. His life is sort of tragic, but he's definitely a part of the history of the city of Urbana, and will only be more so, I think, as time goes on.
Okay. I'm curious, did you get any feedback from anyone who's looked at these? Or?
I've gotten feedback from people that I directly, gave some copies to. I haven't gotten any like anonymous or feedback from somebody who just picked it up randomly. But nor did I put my email address. I put my website on the copyright page, but I kind of just created a little distance between me and the booklet.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Go ahead.
I have a question, I guess, a question/comment. Is the booklet, I realize it's not the same experience, but is it available to be looked at in electronic form?
Yeah, it was originally published at the Los Angeles Review of Books, and it's still up on their website and should be for as long as the website is there. So the article can be found
But
that way.
But it isn't really the same visually because of the layout and such.
Well, you know, the way it was originally published, it did have these pictures of Wallace that I found at the library. This was the
Okay,
basis of the
okay.
article, as I dug up some old photos of him at the Champaign County Historical Archive. Yeah, it doesn't look great on online, and you know, but I don't know quite how to, you know, having it in your hands just is not the same thing as seeing it on a screen.
No, that's for sure. Is it possible to give a copy still to the Urbana Library?
Yeah.
Because I think that would be very good. I think they're, you know, capable of handling material that shouldn't go to children, and I think it's the kind of thing that really ought to be there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay.
Anyone else have?
Do you have
Yeah,
any
Ginny.
copies with you? Excuse me, do you have any copies with you today?
I put one with the final report.
Yeah, I have one copy,
Oh.
so I would be happy to distribute it to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone
I gave them
else?
all away, though.
So what, I guess, can you put this project in the context of your creative life? What was your, what's your motivation for doing this particular thing?
Sure. Well, I have been writing and publishing my writing for many years now, but I also do graphic design. I worked doing as a designer for a publishing company on campus, Dalkey Archive Press, for quite a while, so I know how to lay things out and make books,
Mhm.
basically. So this was a way to kind of make a little book of my own writing, so it kind of combined the two
Mhm.
things nicely.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
Sure.
Our next grant presentation will be about the Faye Glassman performance. Hi.
It's a Faye Glassman performance, but it's only Glassman. It's here today. Lisa is visiting her mother, who happens to live in Hawaii, which is a good place to have a mother to visit.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's not able to be here. I should confess that for some reason today I'm feeling a little dizzy. So, and I'm okay, but if you see me going like this or more than usual spacing out, then that's why. I don't know what it is. But I think it'll be okay. Can I just plug this in? Should it be to this side? Oops. Okay. I'll try and make the best use of the 10 minutes. Please interrupt with any questions so that you can guide it to what you're most interested in. So I have a bunch of slides and I have a little bit of video. I don't know if there's time for that, but I can give you, what I'd like to do is give you some taste of what this project produced. And I think you have the final report material. Is that
Yes,
right?
we did get it in our
Okay.
packets.
So, like I said, you know, any questions would be fine. What I have, well, first of all, as you know, this is something that we call Theater of the Hummingbird. And it was a pilot project that was funded. We didn't know really how all the unknowns would fill in. We didn't know in what way we could get teens involved. We don't have a really ready connection to teens right now in town. which is one reason why we wanted to do it, because we wanted to change that. We didn't know what they would think of us, I mean the potential participants, and what they would think of our idea of what it would be good for them to do, where to go, you know, who to connect with in order to establish this. And however, we've lived in town for a long time and done a lot of things, and so we got around to a lot of people. And I don't know if we listed them in the final report. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Then we spent a lot of time going around and talking with people, putting up posters, which you probably have examples of, and a very good article interview in Smile Politely. And then we found out to our delight that kids actually did sign up. And it turned out to be, without our having much control over it and wondering like who is possibly interested in this, a really dynamic group of 6 young women, turned out to be all girls, probably fortunately for them, I think. Because in seeing how they interacted and bonded with one another, it seemed like, well, that's good, actually. It's a group of girls, and they don't have to deal with guys. At that age, they were 13, 14, and 15,
Mhm.
and they were able to talk with one another and work with one another without the interference of that kind of strange level of gender identity and all that. And they were really motivated, dynamic, creative, smart kids. So we were very pleased. And the idea of the whole thing was for us to really let them follow through from beginning to end on their own creative thinking. And any way that we can help, we would help. But we have to rein ourselves in as people who create things all the time. We have to keep ourselves from interfering with them. And that's maybe the uniqueness of what we're trying to do, is make them the artists who are in control from beginning to end of the entire process of making what they choose to create. And it turned out to be really wonderful. Maybe I should show you something, like, well, first of all, photographs. And what I'll do is just kind of zip through them, if that's possible. The 2 performances resulted at Pizza M, where the participants really felt comfortable. They knew the place. They wanted to do it there. Pizza M was really great about giving us the space. They understood that we would order some pizzas, and we did. We ordered quite a few, actually. But they presented, you know, an absolutely welcoming atmosphere. Also, I should say, our collaboration with Community Center for the Arts was wonderful. And now we feel part of that family of artists who are connected through that organization. Also, I think I'm repeating what you might already know, but everything took place at C4A, Community Center for the Arts. It turned out to be a great facility for us. The kids felt really good there. They fit in right away, and we had the run of the place. It was Friday and Saturday nights. So they were giving up or using their Friday and Saturday nights to do this creative work, which also was a gamble on our parts. Turned out to be just right, I think. This is getting ready for the performance. There were 2 shows and 2 pretty full houses, which means about 35 or 40 audience members per performance. Maggie and Saskia made a song. Maybe I'll be able to play some of it for you. the lyrics were really poignant. More of the participants, we had lights. They had friends and siblings and relatives. Sorry about some of these. This is between shows, practicing. This is at Pizza M. I'm going to skip over to, this is kind of interesting, where they're consulting with one another about how they're going to handle this. The run of the show, everything was them. We weren't on stage. We weren't backstage. I'm going to keep going quickly until we get to some of the performing itself. Bella, Jaden, Ellen. Some of the audience, faculty member in the dance department at the U of I, Brian Hagee, who has the Prompting Theater Group. Another faculty member in dance at the U of I. They got audience interest that I think went way beyond what they expected, because there were a lot of very accomplished adults who came to see what they produced. This was the chart that came out, that was made while there was a conversation going on right in the beginning of the process about what to do. And we started with the question, what's important to you? Wide open, like what really matters to you? And it wasn't a test, it wasn't a class, it wasn't something that was front-loaded with expectations. It was really up to them. You know, whatever happens to be important to them, they should put on this piece of paper. And then we made, or they made, lines connecting them with a color code depending on what the relationship was that they wanted between these different areas of their lives. And that was the basis on which they started producing the material that they would actually perform. And we referred to this a lot. And then out of it came scores or arrangements or forms that we suggested to them as a kind of practice or warm-up to what they would make. And these are some of those. Treating bits of theatrical material as if it were musically composable. Scripts that they started writing, we would be the secretaries and type them up and copy them and bring them back the next day. And then each of them had a notebook, and they started accumulating their material. This looks like
Yeah, we've been
a lot
through
of
that part.
repetition. Okay. Do you have any questions right now? Because before I run out of time, I want to make sure I tell you what you want to know.
Well, I guess one of my questions would be if you see this going further and doing additional projects like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We do now have another grant to bolster the possibility of our doing another rendition of this.
Hmm.
Either late summer or fall would be best. So yes, what we did so far as a pilot really worked as a pilot.
Hmm.
We know we can do it now. We know it works. We know how to do it better, and we know who to turn to. We already laid the foundation. We want to do it again, and the bigger vision of it would be to establish an ongoing youth-driven teen theater company in town that would specialize in making its own work, in movement and in theater and in music, but not primarily music, not dance, not strictly speaking theater, but experimental movement, original theater is what we're interested in having them do. And we'd like to, we at least seriously want to raise the question of whether that's possible in town.
Okay.
The big drawback, like for almost everything, is we're not convinced we can get the funding base to make that happen. It doesn't take much, but it takes something reliable.
Right.
And this is what we do. This is our professional work. We have our own show, and we travel around and we perform, and it's all put together in a really unpredictable manner. So we, in this project, even in addition to the generous funding that we got, we devoted an incredible amount of in-kind time and energy that we can't really, in the long run, afford
Sure.
to do. We can't keep doing that.
Right.
So that's the question, whether whether we can support ourselves doing part-time, part of our work being a teen theater company.
Okay.
But we would like to. So,
Yeah.
yes, possibly a second, not exactly pilot, but something further along the way to that is in the works.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or comments?
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I move to reflect that in the past, it hasn't happened for quite a long time, but in the past, the Station Theater occasionally did children's shows.
Mhm.
And they have small gaps in their program. I wonder if they would be, but this is just off the top of my head, so not thought through, but I wonder if they might be receptive to hosting a company such as you're talking about on a recurring basis, because if you had a facility in
Mhm.
which to work,
Mhm.
that could provide a lot of stability. And the Station Theater has a lot of exposure, which has resulted in a really robust contributors list.
Mhm.
So it might be an interesting contact to make and see if something could be worked out there. I think that would
That's a
be a
good idea.
terrific addition to the, a terrific,
Mhm.
recurring, endlessly recurring addition to the Urbana performing arts scene, and that's a wonderful, for the size of the productions that you're talking about.
Mhm.
That's a wonderful venue.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great idea, and that's the sort of setting that we would like to establish and be established in.
And if when you talk to them, you can feel free to tell them that I suggested it because they know me well.
I'll say you demanded it.
Yeah, you say
You
that I
ordered them.
demanded it. I used my authority as a public official
All in favor,
to
say aye.
demand that you do this.
Yeah, but that is the sort of thing that we would like. We would like it to be, adopted and part of the community and ongoing.
Yeah, sure.
I think C4 Arts, Community Center for the Arts,
Mhm.
went a long way in sort of providing that right off the bat, because it's an environment where there's lots of arts going on. It has that
Right.
feel to it. They had a little room, which turned out to be just big enough in the back for us to work. And because it was at night, Friday and Saturday nights, nothing else was happening there.
Ah,
So the kids came into it like, well, this is our place. This is here for us. And in a way, they were right. And they felt like they weren't, there was nobody else to deal with. They had the run of it. And it was a good feeling. And they also knew it exudes music going on all around.
yeah. So you think that's a good physical venue for
No,
it?
no, I don't think,
Yeah,
ultimately not, because it's not a performing space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So no, a station would be great, and it's right in that neighborhood.
Right.
The
It's the right
other,
size.
the other possible place, and of course, it's just very, very, it's very much in the dreaming stage now, but the plans that are underfoot for renovating the Baptist church downtown,
Oh, yeah.
that big
Oh.
brick thing. So
Yeah.
that's going to become a totally different thing. It's going to be repurposed,
Oh.
assuming that the funding
Mm.
goes through, assuming that they can get the right bank funding. That's going to be repurposed, and part of the repurposing is going to include an auditorium that could be a performance space,
Huh. Is that right in front of Lincoln Square?
right in front of Lincoln
On
Square.
Race- Oh, wow.
Yeah, not the Methodist church, but the
Yeah.
other, the brick Korean
the Korean
Baptist
one,
church.
yeah.
Yeah, the Korean church.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So
okay.
so
I
that's
see.
going to become a totally different.
Oh.
That building is going to be totally differently repurposed,
Mhm.
assuming I guess they still are working on getting the funding for the physical renovations, but or getting a bank loan to
Mhm.
cover that. But I think that I think it's probably going to work out. So the Station Theater is up, running, in wonderful facility now, and the previous Korean church may be a place that in the future would be a location.
Hmm. I'll be looking
Something
out
to
for
think
that.
about.
That'll be
Well,
the
thanks
right
very
place.
much for your presentation, and thanks for the project.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the support. It makes things possible, obviously. There's a lot more I'd like to tell you, but maybe some other occasion. Should I just pull it out? Actually, open invitation. If there is any more that you would like to know, please get in touch. And, we would respond to things or send you things. Thanks. Thank you very much. I didn't pass out, that's good.
Okay, the next grant presentation will be by Amira Davis.
Good afternoon.
Uh,
I time myself. First, I want to thank everybody for the generous donation to do this project. It was something that I thought about after last year. I did a Saturday school pilot, and one of the things that organically grew out of the Saturday school was a group of mothers that came together while the children were taking arts classes with students and other accomplished artists from around the community. The mothers just would gather and we would have conversations. And so when I started thinking about what the next iteration of that project would be, I still want to do the Saturday school, but I think developing mothers' capacity and also involving them in the arts. I had also done a research project in Chicago where we were looking at women who were living, well, I was working with a researcher who was looking at the effects of violence on women and suggesting that the DNA expression was altered by their experience and exposure to chronic stress and violence. And I was asked to put together an intervention for those women, and I was thinking about an arts-based intervention. And as I started doing the research and gathering materials, I found very little research done with the arts for adult populations. They either had to be special populations like, cancer survivors or survivors of domestic abuse. And actually, I'm doing a project in California now with just mothers, but this particular project that this funding was for domestic violence survivors. And I had talked to Isak Griffin, the new director there. She knows me. We are percussions and play drums in the community. And I told her I had this bright idea to do something with women. Was thinking about different things that I do. I craft gourds, and I drum and do poetry. And I thought that wouldn't be accessible to a broad group of women. But jewelry making, everybody likes to adorn themselves. So that's what this was, jewelry making for self-empowerment. I created a 4-week curriculum. Before I even got started with the women, I was invited to 40-hour workshop for certification to work with domestic violence survivors, just so that I could be familiar with what they were going through, and so that I wouldn't step on any toes with any kind of insensitivity. And it turned out to be a very I'm very grateful for having that experience, just to learn the language and deal with that. So when I put the curriculum together, we met for 4 times each week for 4 weeks, 90 minutes. There were 8 to 12 women. The center houses 13 women on any given day, and so there was shifts in the week. Some women were there consistently. I think I had 6 women who were there for the entire 4 weeks. Others came and went. And it was an ethnically diverse group of women. So the first week, it was self-love bracelets. And we talked, I gathered some inspirational quotes by women about women. And I had them read them because still I want to deal with literacy in this work, and got them to choose one that resonated with them. I gave them the lanyards for this necklace and this little charm for them to cut out the quote and place it in the charm. That was just, a very basic arts project. But we talked about colors, chromotherapy. I asked them what was their favorite color, what was their least favorite color, what they thought was their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. And I gave them a color chart that I had got from a psychology website, and the meanings of these colors. And they got an understanding of why they liked a particular color or didn't like a particular color. So this first bracelet that they made, the self-love bracelet, we talked about gemstones, vibrational medicine, symbols and symbolism, and they were allowed to choose charms for their bracelets. But I gave them 3 particular stones: the rose quartz, which is for love, and aventurine, which gives financial stability because it's of the earth, it's green, and lepidolite. It's a gemstone that's mined in Brazil, and it's said to deal with trauma and issues of trauma and depression. So they could choose any other stones that are beads that they wanted to. And afterwards, I asked them to talk about why they made the particular bracelets they made. And all of them had stories about the particular charms that they chose. Either it reminded them of their children or something in their life or something that they wanted to do in their life. And we ended with a song that came out of Nigeria, Ile Iyami, in my mother's house. And there was a refrain at the end. I kind of put this together, love is the answer. And so I drummed and we sang and went into this kind of meditation. And I was hoping to do that for all 4 that we could drum and sing to, but we weren't able to. But afterwards, I asked them how that exercise had made them feel. The responses I got were fantabulous, focused, happy, tranquil, thoughtful, present, and content. One woman said she felt like she accomplished something. And these are just some other bracelets. The bracelet that's up in the corner, I posted it on my Facebook page, and I actually had people who wanted to buy it. And the next week, I went back and I told the woman, I said, you had offers for this bracelet? And she said, you know, it made her feel good. It dealt with self-esteem with these women for them to make something and have others appreciate it. One of the women told her counselor after the first session, I told my roommate about our bead making class and how the colors represented different things. She said, that's not empowerment from abuse. I said, oh yes it is. It gave us something else to think about, a different way to think about ourselves other than being abused. It was also very peaceful. Next week, we worked with memory wire bracelets, and I talked about the remembering body, how we accumulate stress in our bodies, and how it affects us cognitively and behaviorally, and how it also affects our children and future generations. This idea of epigenetics that we've been working on with this project in Chicago, and that I had also done more research about, and thinking about the intergenerational effects of trauma. During this 4 weeks, I had the opportunity to present this artist bomb at a curriculum conference in Chicago, the Association for Advanced Curriculum Studies. And I talked about how any curriculum that we have in the communities, one, we needed more community-based programs, but when we construct these curricula, they need to deal with trauma, especially in inner city communities. Crafting, we talked about crafting as therapeutic in this particular session, how it lowers the cortisol levels. I found empirical studies that relate to that, and that it was relaxing. The woman who did the bracelet that people wanted to buy, this is her bracelet. She just had a natural talent for jewelry making. These are other bracelets done. This one in the corner that's orange with the orange in it. The woman came in, she kind of had an attitude. And when she sat down and started making it, well, I don't want to do this. And by the time it was over, everybody was, oh, that is so beautiful. And I told her about it the next time I saw her. And again, it changed their whole demeanor to find out that they made something that others appreciated. The third session, it was just a review of the stress. One, I wanted to know if they had actually internalized what had been talked about. And we talked about gemstone meanings. I had purchased these wrapped gemstones, primarily tiger's eye, amethyst, and I think there was one other. And so we talked about the meanings of those stones. They chose the stones that they wanted to make necklaces with. And these are some of the necklaces that they made. The last meeting, I talked about crafting for profit. We discussed the supplies that we have been using for the 4 weeks, how they could, with a $60 investment, buy 2 sets of pliers, some cutters, some stretch cord, some memory wire, and the beads and the spacers and charms for about $60 going through Etsy. Told them how to go to Hobby Lobby, use their smartphones to say, retail me not, and get 40% discounts on a high item. And at the end, well, we're going on Etsy and looking at actual examples of what people were making, and told them they could either make something either to sell or for someone. And it was surprising that there were a few women who identified themselves as crafters. They actually made things that they wanted to try to sell. But for the most part, these women wanted to make something for someone that they loved. And this bracelet here was made by the woman with the attitude. It was made for her daughter. This other one was made, this thing at the bottom, we talked about waist beads. That was one of the things we, my 10 minutes up. That's one of the things we wanted to stress with them is body concept, and just to be proud of being in the skin they were in, because we know that that's a large part of why women feel like they are undeserving or deserving of the abuse, is that they are not satisfied with how they look and thinking that they are unworthy. So this woman decided she wanted to make waist beads. Another woman had actually bought her 13-year-old daughter, because my classes grew each week, and at the end she bought her 13-year-old daughter, and they made waist beads together. And so these were some of the projects that they made for the last week. Here again, the pink is an example of a mother who made a bracelet for her daughter as well as herself. But I gave a survey at the end and asked how many were currently crafters. There were 3. They crafted a lot of different things. Rating the experience, 9 of the 10 rated it. 9 of the 10 respondees rated it 10. They talked about being stressed, that some experienced stress daily. They also stated that they were depressed and that crafting was fun and relaxing for them, and they would recommend it to others. I asked what they liked most: making something I can sell or giving away, allowing each individual to be creative, everything. It showed me how to make things, the instructor reflecting on what we are making and how it makes us think. Openness, it was therapeutic, very laid back. There was also benefits to the staff. The staff, I gave them the survey as well. They actually participated in it, making their own jewelry. Two members did. But what one staff member said is that now that they've seen this particular type of project, they would like to incorporate more arts into their empowerment session, like painting or some other crafting. And I mean, I think overall it's just a positive example how artists working with arts organizations or arts funders and community organizations, this was a collaboration with Courage Connection, can make these things happen.
Great. Okay. Any comments, questions?
Are you going to do this again? Did you apply for grants in the next cycle?
Oh, is there another cycle coming up?
This is
I guess
actually from the latest cycle.
This was from the latest cycle?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
this is our first presentation for the current cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I would love to, because that's one
Yes,
of the
please
things
do.
that the women wanted to know. I gave them my cards at the end. They wanted to know if this is something that they could keep going. They are only there for, I think the maximum stay is 4 weeks at the shelter, but they can come back to other things. So I would like to do it with maybe even a different group of women.
Oh, please do. Yeah, please do apply. This is really wonderful.
Yeah. Any other?
Yeah, very good. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree also. This is terrific, and I have this poignant feeling because we see so much great stuff that we can't fund in perpetuity, and certainly for another year or so, but as new great things come up. So I'm always trying to think about how individuals can leverage something like this into something that would go on. And one of the things that occurs to me, if it hasn't already occurred to the folks at Courage Connection, is whether this could be incorporated into their grant applications and their funding applications as they move forward, because I think this could serve as making them rather distinctive, and the cost of it's only a small increment of their costs. So if you think that if they might be receptive to that, I would encourage you to pursue that with them. I feel so terrible with respect to our public funding of anything in this country anymore. So it's always a scramble, but yeah, I really hope that this can persist and grow, and so it's great that you're doing it, and I hope a way can be found to make it become more institutionalized.
I would like that too. I think one of the things that came out during the workshop, domestic violence workshop, is the loss of funding for domestic violence issues, just statewide, as funds are drying up just across the board. Domestic violence is one of those things that is losing a lot of funding. So I think they're scrambling just to maintain. And so I would love for this to happen. And one of the counselors that actually made a bracelet, that's what she said, that she would like to do that with the women on some of her sessions with them on Tuesday. So I think there is some thoughts given to that, but she's not a professional artist or anything. It's just something that she would like to do with them.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
I really love this project.
Hello.
I'd like to congratulate you on this. I found it incredibly interesting that you did a project where art is not just to entertain people, but to use it as a therapy for people who are in need of some help like this, and to elevate people, lift them. I am wondering what it would take to make something like this on a larger and more permanent scale, because it's an incredibly worthwhile project. I love the use of art in this way. So if you could comment on the question of how you could make it bigger and ongoing.
The only thing I can think of is, nonprofits. I'm not incorporated, and so it's very difficult for me to get funding that way. But if I could work with a nonprofit on the grant writing process to try to get funds. But and I'm not pessimistic by any means, but I just know that funding is drying up just across the board. I know even with the Arts Council, what they fund. And so it might be worthwhile to look at them and see if there's a way to get funding. But as something that could be sustained, I think that would take collaboration with maybe even the business community or something like that. I think we have to be creative in how we think about funding something like this. It is worthwhile, and like I said, I bring a lot to the table: music, crafting, the writing, and I wanted women to write stories. I just have this vision that encompasses the arts with in service to particularly mothers, because I'm a mother. I just don't, and I would love to, if you have ideas, we could, I think I gave you my card, I can give you my card again, but if you have ideas, we could work together to collaborate to try to figure it out.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very worthwhile project.
Thank you.
Okay, the next grant presentation will be 8 to Create.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Julie Kierski, and I'm the primary contact for 8 to Create. It was a live drawing event that took place over 8 hours with the reception following in March of this year at the CoLab. And we had 7 artists who participated in the event, and it was open to the public to come and watch them draw. And then there was one collaborative piece that the attendees could participate and contribute to. And I have some pictures of some of our advertising. So this is the postcard flyer. And this was created by a student graphic designer at the University of Illinois. And this is a poster that another student created. And just to give you some background on the motivation behind this project, in my undergrad, and I went to undergrad in Pennsylvania at a school called Allegheny College. They would do these events for the community and for the students, 8 hours of drawings with maybe like 15 artists who would come and draw. And I just really enjoyed those events very much. And I'm finishing up my graduate studies here at the University of Illinois, and at some point in my studies, I just got kind of bored, and I wanted to do something a little bit more creative. And so I know that the arts community here in Champaign-Urbana is very vibrant, and I thought that the community would just enjoy an event like this. So that was just the initial idea, and it started out as a personal project and kind of grew into something more, and now it's a student organization at the University of Illinois. I got connected with a professor there, Patrick Hammy, and I had actually worked on him. He sponsored a grant that I applied to at the university that we did not get funded, but then through that process, he had really encouraged me to apply to the public arts grant, and I was like, oh, I don't know about that. It's like with the city and like myself, I have creative experience in graphic design, web design, but applying for a grant it really wasn't something that I personally was drawing in, so I didn't have any work to show. I just had the idea. But he encouraged me, so that's how I got connected with you all. And then I created the student organization, and we had 10 students that were involved in things like making the posters, all the meetings, putting the event together. And this is just a picture of the 7 artists here working. And then this is the one on the bottom right is the collaborative piece that was set up in Pizza M in the cafeteria and company right next door to the collab. And this is just some sequences of the artists working. And as far as like attendance, we estimated about over 300 people. Some people were just passing by and they would stop in. Some people were having pizza and they stopped in. Other people were there like explicitly for the event, and people stayed for hours, and people came and went. And our reception was pretty well attended too, especially for such a small place like that. And we had 3 local artists. This is Matthew Watt. He's a professor at Parkland. And we had Langston Alston. You might be familiar with his murals around town. And then a graduate student, Sarah Page, at the university. And then our 3 other artists were from a regional call for artists. So we had, I think, about 20 applicants, and we got some funding through that. And then we invited Matthew Woodward, he's based in Chicago, to be our featured artist. And so this drawing, actually, he donated to the city of Urbana, and it's either going to be displayed or auctioned off. I'm not sure yet how the framing is going on that. And this artist, Melanie Johnson, she's a professor at a university in Missouri. These are just some brochures that a student designed. And Channel 3 News, they were driving by and they kind of saw the buzz that was going on, so they stopped in and recorded some stuff. And this is our reception. So we had some refreshments, and the artists just talked about their process of creating, and the attendees could ask them questions. And I think in my report I had underestimated the amount of hours that went into putting this event on. I wrote that I had aggregated the individual contributions, but it's really more than that, because I didn't think that every time we were meeting, I was meeting with students, and there might be like 6 of us for 2 hours, but I didn't times that all out. So I think it's a lot more than what I put on there. And the students, for me, like the personal motivation behind starting an organization was for sustainability purposes, and also to give a lot of undergraduates like real-world experience with doing things like graphic design, putting an event like this together, having contact with artists and all that professional experience, as well as contact with the community, just because the university can be its own entity a lot of times, I think. So that was really great experience for the students to actually go out into downtown Urbana and go to places like the Collab and Pizza M and see what's going on. And they were really excited about the event, and there are students who want to continue to have the event next year. So I will be graduating, so I'll be leaving. So hopefully I'm really pushing them and giving them all like my resources, materials to give them the best chance for success to make it happen again. And the funding from the Public Arts Commission made up about like 30% of our budget, but I really wanted to thank you all for funding the project, because it was completely new, and you know, for someone who's creative, like ideas are come and go all the time, but ideas die all the time as well, and without the first funding from you all, I think the idea would have just died and not happened. So it really did give me the momentum to make it possible and to pursue other funding avenues. And I'm, Matthew Woodward, he wanted to donate the drawing to the university, and it was just so difficult to get anybody to take the drawing because it was going to be really big. It's like 8 feet by 8 feet. And I was like, okay, why don't I contact, Lisa, right, who was there, who was here in Pauline's position when I applied for the grant. And Pauline was so responsive and talking to the mayor, and I'm so glad that it worked out that way, that the drawing was donated to the city of Urbana.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Do you have any questions? Or?
Anybody have comments? Go right ahead.
What's next for you?
I'm actually going to Guinea in West Africa. That's where my husband is working now, so I may try to do a project like this there. So.
Okay.
Great.
Well.
I meant to say thank you for working with Pauline to get the donation of that painting.
Yes,
here for the
thank you
city
very
of
much.
Urbana. That was good work on your part, and the whole project sounds like it was a wonderful project for the students.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, next we'll have the monthly progress report.
Okay, so I will do the monthly progress report now. Artist of the Corridor, we have a new artist, Beth Darling, and her works are also up on banners along Broadway Avenue, I guess between Water and University. So it's garden paintings at the City Building and landscape paintings at the Free Library. We will have an opening reception on Thursday, May 21st from 5 to 6. I think I sent everyone an invitation for that. So I hope you can make it. And these works are going to be up until July 6th. Art at the Market started this past Saturday, and we had a pretty good turnout. We had almost 200 people, although it was hard to count because it was quite a spread out space, and some people just came for 10 seconds and then went. But we had a bicycle jewelry workshop with Neutral Cycle, a local bike shop, and they also had free tune-ups, and we had a performance by C4A String Band. I uploaded some videos of C4A's performance. It was pretty great. For some reason, there's a car alarm that just kept going off right next to C4A every 5 or 10 minutes.
Great.
So they started to incorporate the car alarm sound to their music, and it was wonderful.
That's great.
This month for Art Now, we are going to rerun Beth Darling's episode, since she's also featured on the banners and on Artists of the Corridor. For marketing, we keep updating our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts. So now we have 789 fans on Facebook, over 1,400 followers on Twitter, and 45 on Instagram. We have also completed our new e-newsletter template. So I'm sure all of you probably saw that. If you're not signed up on the e-newsletter, you can do that online, or you can tell me and I'll put you on it. And now we have 669 subscribers. We also have brochures for the sculptures, which I brought copies of, so you can grab some on your way out. They're designed by David Michael Moore from Collab. The big thing that's going on right now is Murals on Glass. We announced this call on April 30th, and this is our third cycle of Murals on Glass. And all Champaign County artists are invited to apply. Applications process is pretty simple, so if you know any artists who might be interested, feel free to pass along this information. And 3 works will be selected. 1 will be on the UBA office window, and 2 will be at the Civic Center. And we will keep 3 works, so the 1 at the parking deck and the 2 at the Civic Center. We also still need 1 or 2 people to serve in the selection committee. So if you're interested in serving as a jury, let me know and I'll sign you up. And another thing that's happening is the Urbana Art Expo. This will be on September 13th, that's a Sunday, at the Civic Center. And basically we'll invite about 15 to 20 local artists to set up shop and sell their works for a day. It'll be a juried show, so we'll try to make it fine arts and high quality arts, not crafts, because we do have a craft fair already in town. Actually, we have several craft fairs in town, so they do have platforms. But fine arts, I feel that this community has a need to have a fine art show. We'll also hopefully be able to raise some earned income through this event. Probably not much, but we will charge a booth rental fee and a commission fee from the sales. Jason and Pat are serving in the working group for this event, so if you have anything to say, either of you, maybe?
Yeah, we've met once. Actually talked a little bit with Pauline this morning. I personally have talked to some local artists a little bit, and I'm planning on sort of reaching out to some of the MFA graduate students that I know, because I think that that's kind of the sort of group that we're kind of looking at. I have a good friend of mine is actually the program coordinator at the Graham Foundation in Chicago, which is they give art grants. They lean towards architecture, but he coordinates any sort of art events at their facility. He's local. His name's Pat Elifritz. If you've ever listened to Steve Kelly on the radio, that's his father. But so I was excited about involving him potentially because he's from the area. So we're looking I think we're really looking forward to it. I think we're going to try to have a significant hand in it and controlling kind of like how we want it to be, but still, letting the artists show their work and present it in the way that they would like, while still, potentially making money from it. And so far so good. I mean, we're still pretty preliminary in it, but I think I have a good feeling about it.
And that reminds me, we actually also talked to Kelly White and Amanda Baker from 40 North, and they're very supportive. They'll help us in any way they can, they said, so.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add other than if anyone here does want to, let artists that they know about this. I think you said that we'd have something shortly that people could
Yes, I'm
distribute?
going to, I create some promotional materials, and once the application is open, I will send everyone a link to that, so you can just forward that email, if that works.
Yeah, so please, if you know someone you think would be interested, please let them know.
When will it be open?
By next week.
Next week? Okay.
And also tell your friends about Murals on Glass. I think usually for every call we have, everything comes in the last half an hour. But right now we only have one application, and it's still making me nervous, so tell your friends.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone have any announcements they want to make before we close?
I have an announcement.
Go ahead.
This is Robin's last meeting.
Yes.
She's been a great part of the commission, and she's moving to Southern California. So,
Well, I know
She'll-
Urbana's in good hands. Very comfortable. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve with all of you.
Well, and thank you, especially for helping with the Boneyard event.
That
So,
was fun.
yeah. Okay, would someone like to move that we adjourn?
Oh, I'll move that we adjourn so that we don't sit here forever.
Okay. I'll second it. That's it.